We have reached the final Hue card release of 1990. Not the last release of 1990, there's one CD to go, but the last Hue card release, and it is a very, very special one. Momotarou Densetsu II is one of the games that Japanese fans consider to be peak PC Engine. 6 months before this, Hudson released Momotarou Densetsu Turbo for the PC Engine, and that was a remake of the original Momotarou Densetsu game that they had released in 1987. Momotarou Densetsu was one of the first big successes for console RPGs following in the wake of Dragon Quest II. Since that point, when it was the 4th game of this style released, RPGs had taken over Japanese console gaming, so it was obviously time for a sequel. Something you need to know about Momotarou Densetsu II before you get started is that you cannot play it without the Ten no Koei 2 memory bank. That's the battery-powered data backup system that plugged into the back of the PC Engine. If you don't have it installed, then when you start the game, it warns you that you will not be able to save. It says that any passwords it used would be 300 to 400 characters long. So I'll just plug in the Ten no Koei and, oh, it seems my expansion port is already occupied by this RGB converter. In this case, I'm playing without the Ten no Koei 2. The 2 is the 2 kilobytes of memory it had. So while I was recording footage, I could not save it all. I am playing this game without a net. The plot of the game is that 3 years after Momotarou defeated the Oni King, who was hiding underneath Oni Island, has decided to start stirring things up again. As a boy born from a peach found floating in the river, Momotarou will not let this stand. He sets out to fight the Oni once more. Momotarou Densetsu 2 works pretty much the same way as most RPGs of 1990. You walk around in towns and the world, you hit button A to bring up a menu, and that menu is where you can choose to talk, search, use skills, change your equipment, use items from your inventory. When you're walking around outside of town or in dungeons, then you could get randomly attacked by monsters, and here your combat options are to attack, use an item, use a special ability, run away. All very standard stuff, and the exact same as Momotarou Densetsu Turbo. In fact, there's the same poop as Momotarou Densetsu Turbo. It's still there, hanging out in the field. So let's talk about the things that make Momotarou Densetsu 2 different. In the first game, towns had a cafe where you could buy recovery items, weapon shops, armor shops, and a temple where you could get a password for your progress. Now the weapon and armor shops are consolidated. The temple tells you that you have to have the Ten no Koei 2 memory bank if you want to save. And there's a couple of new shops. There's a doctor who's used for recovering from status ailments. Sleeping at an inn doesn't take care of that. There are banks where you can store up to 65,536 coins. And if you need to carry more money than that, then you can spend 60,000 coins on a gold bar that takes up space in your inventory. You still lose half your coins if Momotarou dies while wandering around, and the bank is a way to avoid it. Some towns have rental shops where you can try out equipment for 10% of their regular cost. You can use this equipment for a fixed time, but when that clock runs out, the shopkeeper just comes out of nowhere and takes the equipment back. So you probably don't want to rent equipment to go into a dungeon, but if there's a boss monster in the town, something that is weirdly common, then this is a good way to deal with it. Another new feature from Momotarou Densetsu 2 is that Momotarou no longer fights alone. Okay, in the previous game you could eventually get companions, but you didn't have control over them. Now you can make a party. I didn't get far enough to start collecting companions when I was playing, and I played up through the completion of the 3rd town. But you can build a party of up to 4 characters assisting you, and there are 20 characters total who will join your side. At the time, 20 playable characters was the record for most playable characters in an RPG, and most of the characters that will join you are people from Japanese folklore. Also, the poop will join you, because of course it can. And as you couldn't tell from that, Momotarou Densetsu 2 is a comedy game, and the gags can get pretty meta. At one point, you're given one of those false choices where you have to pick yes in order to continue the game, and if you pick no, then the game tells you that if you're not going to play, you might as well just go back to the title screen. And then if you pick no again, well, it fakes you out with a false title screen. As before, you don't get special abilities by leveling up. Instead, you have to find people in the world who will teach them to you. In the first game, that meant beating up sages, but here there's a lot more variety in the tasks that you have to perform, though it'll still mostly be mini-games. And for at least the second sage, you still have to beat him up to get his ability. The first one just gives it to you when you talk to him. When I played, I went to the first town and got some equipment, then spent a lot of time leveling up before I moved to the second town, where an Oni was preventing them from starting their festival. After I beat him up, the party started, and you could find that the Oni had joined in the celebration. They're not all bad monsters in this game. In the third town, an Oni had taken a woman hostage, and after grinding up some levels and replacing all my equipment, I defeated him, rescued the woman, and the people went back to work in the field. And that's as far as I got. It was about an hour and a half of playing to get to this point. It's not like I could get much further than that without the memory bank plugged in. Momotarou Densetsu II had not one, not two, but 3 remakes. The Super Famicom RPG Shin Momotarou Densetsu uses the same general structure as 2, but tells a more serious version of the story. The PlayStation RPG Momotarou Densetsu is just a straight-up remake. And then the Game Boy Color got Momotarou Densetsu 1+2, which reworked the games to fit on that system. But despite the fact that there are going to be remakes for the next 10 years, the Momotarou Densetsu series doesn't progress past this point. There will be Momotarou Densetsu Gaiden, and I've already talked about the Famicom version of that. But there is no Momotarou Densetsu 3. Hudson found a different style of game for Momotarou to star in, and they're going to milk that for the next 20 years. As I said at the start of this, Momotarou Densetsu 2 is really well regarded in Japan. It's one of the games that comes up in contention for the title of Best RPG on the PC Engine. I don't think I'd give it that award myself, but I can recognize that it is a very good RPG for the era. It's always tough for me to judge RPGs since I can only play them for an hour or so, and they often don't start opening up until a few hours in. But I can say that Momotarou Densetsu 2 gets off to a pretty quick start. While I had to grind, it wasn't taking an excessively long amount of time. Maybe 20 minutes before I felt confident going on to the next area. It's also a good improvement over the original Momotarou Densetsu, the kind of expansion of a concept that you want in a sequel. I have to say that this is one of the better RPGs on the PC Engine, just as long as you have the Tendo Koei 2 memory bank.